if you look at affordability, which they campaigned on, they lied because they talked about, oh, prices are up. No, prices are down under the Trump administration, and they're down substantially. We did a great job on groceries and affordability. The only problem is the fake news. You people don't want to report it. They said, oh, I don't want to talk about affordability. The reason I don't want to talk about affordability is because everybody knows that it's far less expensive under Trump than it was under Sleepy Joe Biden.
But the numbers don't lie. Grocery prices are not lower. They are up since August and up since Trump's inauguration. And compared to last September, cost of food has increased 2.7%.
What's up, everybody? Major Retired Richard Ojeda here. And on what BS planet and in what friggin' delusional universe does Donald Trump actually live in? In his failing mind, the golden age is here. He's ushering it in for himself and all of his billionaire buddies with great Gatsby parties, taxpayer-funded vacations for Republicans in Congress, with red herrings and Argentinian beef trim for the rest of us.
How about specific groceries like coffee, which many people are into saying, meat, baked goods, fruits, vegetables, they all cost more.
The truth is that Americans are hurting, and it's disgusting that you would have the President of the United States fighting a lawsuit that says you have to feed poor Americans. Families can't afford food. Mothers are searching bare shelves for baby formula. The cost of everything keeps climbing while wages stay flat, and people are getting fired. Food banks are packed with lines wrapped around the block. But they pretend those lines don't exist because the MAGA crowd in them aren't wearing their little red hats anymore. The cost of living is astronomical under Trump, and Abby Phillips brought the receipts.
Maybe Trump's thinking in downplaying these grocery prices is that Americans aren't feeling it. Well, that is not true either. A recent poll found 62% of Americans say that the cost of food is going up, while only 7% say that it is going down.
In Donald Trump's mind, this is the golden age. But for regular Americans, it's anything but. Last week, Donald Trump and the Republicans got their asses handed to them on a silver platter. They were swept away in a blue tsunami, a wave that sent a clear message. The American people are sick and tired of the lies. They're sick and tired of struggling to make ends meet while these clowns keep making it worse. Grocery prices are higher. Healthcare prices are higher. Everything is astronomical and going crazy. Poor people are suffering, but the rich don't notice.
We've taken snapshots of snapshots in time of where the economy is. And then, what happens is there is hysteria over some of these things, right? And you have folks that are overreacting to some of these things, and a reaction to it, that quite frankly isn't justified.
What do you think people are overreacting?
So I think, look, if inflation is coming down, which it has come down. The average inflation rate has come down. Prices have not come down.
Hold on a second. Yeah.
But average inflation rate has come down.
The point on the inflation piece, as it relates to Trump, is that inflation was trending downward, and now it's trending back up. That is part of the problem. That yes, inflation is lower than it was, during the peak of inflation, but the trajectory is the wrong trajectory. That's the problem for this economy.
The divide between rich and poor has never been greater. Hell, even Marjorie Taylor Greene is turning on Donald Trump because her own constituents have had enough. And the Republicans have been scrambling ever since the shellacking they took on election night. Trump's out here telling the news channels that Americans aren't suffering. But what would this bloated buffoon know about food insecurity or health care? Because he has the best of both. He has never pumped gas a day in his life. He doesn't buy groceries. He wouldn't know what a gallon of milk costs if you printed it on the price of a Big Mac. The lie he keeps telling us is that this is the golden age. It's only golden for the rich, and that's the only group he cares about.
But the growth that doesn't translate to people's pocketbooks only matters to a very particular class of American society. So if, as Tiffany said, you're paying $200 more for groceries, I can personally vouch for the fact that my kids are obsessed with Honeycrisp apples, and they used to be $2.19 a pound, and now they're at least $4.
This is a result, as you said, of his policies. When you deport millions or disappear millions of law-abiding, undocumented migrants who do the work, when 70% of your workforce doesn't come up, 70% of your crops don't get picked, and they die, that is going to drive up the cost of food. When you impose senseless tariffs, if you get an avocado from Mexico at a 17% tariff, guess what? Giant public Safeway, they're going to pass that cost along to you.
And here's the real game, folks. While Abby Phillips is out here backing it all up with hard numbers, the Republicans are still busy playing dress up and make believe, out on paid vacation while the United States of America burns. They want to make life painful for the American people and then blame it all on the Democrats. And that pain, it's not just hitting blue states or blue voters. It's hitting everybody, especially the hardest hit red states, the one most dependent on SNAP and healthcare assistance. They're pitting poor people against poor people, the folks who depend on food benefits against the folks who depend on health care, setting them up to fight each other over, instead of fighting the real enemy, the corrupt billionaires and the politicians that are doing their bidding. That's how they operate: divide, distract, and deceive. They're trying to gaslight America into blaming the Democrats for their own cruelty. They want the Democrats to slash benefits, gut health care, and hand out more tax breaks for the rich. And when Democrats refuse to play along, Republicans throw a tantrum. They take a taxpayer-funded vacation while Democrats show up and try to pass bills to reopen the government and extend the Affordable Care Act subsidies for yet another year. This is their line in the sand: starve Americans, force Democrats to give up the American people's health care, then blame the chaos on them. And the second Democrats should ever give in, Republicans will turn around and say, "See, the Democrats did it." That's their whole strategy. Political arson. The Republicans start the fire and then blame the firefighter for not showing up, even though they never called 911. And if, God forbid, the Democrats do bend, which may have happened, the MAGA crowd will cheer until their health insurance skyrockets because those same Republicans stripped away the Affordable Care Act protections with no backup plan. Then they'll blame Joe Biden. It's a scam they fall for every single time. It's the same scam Trump's been running for years under the umbrella of Republican amnesia. Do it, then don't remember. Only now people are waking up to it, and that's why they are furious. And here's where things stand right now. Donald Trump's disapproval rating is soaring. While polling shows that Democrats are now in their best position yet to retake the House by wide margins next year, there's buyer's remorse from independents. The same independents who gave Donald Trump another shot are now turning away. And a new CNN poll finds that most Americans are not happy with how things are going with Donald Trump back in the White House. The numbers do not lie. But Jim Schultz sure tried to. On CNN, he actually had the nerve to say that Americans were overreacting, that inflation was just a snapshot in time, right? But kudos to Abby Phillips. She rolled him back quicker than Donald Trump's Thanksgiving dinner lie from Walmart. Hold on a second, she said, and reminded him that inflation may be lower than it was at its peak, but it's trending back up, and that's the problem for the economy. She had to tell him straight out what every struggling family already knows. Prices are astronomical. People are hurting. And this so-called recovery isn't reaching the checkout line. Once again, it's the American people who wind up getting the shit sandwich. It's not the rich going without food. It's the poor. Donald Trump and his administration are weaponizing hunger, ripping food away from 40 million Americans, including seniors, children, and the disabled. It's not policy, it's cruelty. And don't forget, he just sent $40 billion to Argentina. Yeah, come on. You think Trump, Miller, and the rest of his crew aren't going to run off to Argentina when all this hits the fan? Think about that one. Yeah. And while this bloated orange turd hides in his ballroom, his little mouthpieces like Jim Schultz and Mike Johnson are out here gaslighting the American people, pretending that nobody's hurting. We have to be thankful for people like Abby Phillips, who come armed with facts and receipts, and for every journalist, worker, and teacher out there still trolling the line for the American people, keeping this country running while the rich are draining it dry, because you think about this. The only reason they've been keeping the government closed is to protect the Epstein files. And you know why? Because it's not just Donald Trump that's going to go down, flushed straight through the crapper. It's all his billionaire buddies, the same ones funding Republican campaigns. None of these billionaires are good people. If they were, they'd be doing everything in their power right now to stock up every friggin' food bank in the country. Every single one of them could do it by themselves, but they don't. They could, but they don't, because they don't give a shit about you or your family. And they want you, the American people, to agree, to gaslight the Democrats into cutting your health care while giving themselves more and more, because their greed is never fulfilled. And that's what this all boils down to, folks. They're trying to gaslight America into having the Democrats cut away people's health care and send more money to the billionaires. And people are finally seeing through all of this. And eventually, folks, that poison that they've been dishing out is going to turn every single one of them. And just like in the Nuremberg trials, that I was just following orders excuse, it's not going to be enough. And that's a fact. Sappers clear the way, airborne all the way.